Dr. Tariq Khan is a lecturer cum research officer, Central Institute of Indian Languages. He is an officer in charge, National Translation Mission, principal of Urdu Teaching and Research Center, Himachal Pradesh, Solan, principal Northern Regional Language Center, Patiala, public relation officers, academic secretary, nodal officer, CPGRAMS, nodal officer, social media, CIIL, and prior to the CIL, he has worked as a guest faculty at the Center for Applied Linguistics and Translation Studies, University of Hyderabad. He was a visiting fellow at the Department of French Studies, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi in 2019. He takes interest in psycholinguistics, humor studies, sociolinguistics, writing systems, translation studies, and intercultural pragmatics. He is an editor of journal Translation Today, National Translation Mission since 2016 to till date. He edited quite a lot of book chapters, journal volumes, research papers, and articles. With these very short introductions, sir, may I invite you to deliver your lecture.
Thank you, Dr. Adafro. And I would like to welcome all the participants, in particular Professor Kolegal Sharma and Professor Vinod Kumar Jha. It's a pleasure to discuss a topic that has received very little attention in humanities and language studies in general, and in translation studies in particular. So today, if you have noticed the program's name, the second component of the program is interpretation, and today it's an opportunity to discuss that in details. So I am very delighted that I have the opportunity to introduce you to interpretation studies. And so far, there have been some discussions, some interactions on this issue, but then looking at the seriousness of or the skill sets required in this kind of an activity, it is important to discuss it in details. And today I take this opportunity to discuss with you interpretation studies, also known as interpreting studies or interpreting sciences. This is something very important. And today I would like to begin first by introducing some key concepts and then taking up some research questions. After that, the factors that affect the interpreting activities, and then several other issues like the role of aptitude, the role of attitude, and certain other factors also which are important when we are studying interpreting. So let me first very briefly tell you these key concepts. The word interpretation and interpreting are very commonly used. Interpreting more commonly than interpretation. And it refers to the oral mode of translation. When I say it's an oral mode of translation, it appears that I have clubbed it inside the larger umbrella of translation. However, if you look at it carefully, you'll notice that it requires an independent recognition, and that is why you'll notice that interpreting studies or interpreting has emerged as a very exclusive, very specialized area also. Basically, interpretation, also known as interpreting and translation have a lot of things in common, and then they also have things which are uncommon. Those who interpret are called interpreters, and those who translate are called translators. This does not really help us in understanding the specific requirements that an interpreter needs to possess. And because this is developing as a very promising area, it is also important to know what prerequisites are there, how one can become a skilled interpreter, and how one can find possible avenues for employment. Therefore, we'll look at these terms called interpret, which has been very common. I mean, every domain of knowledge will have the word interpret. When the word interpret is there, we should also see whether the use of this term is in the same sense here, or it's in a different sense here. The word interpret at times refers to an activity where some speaker has expressed something which is not very clear to the audience, and then there is another speaker who explains it in the way, in the form, in the language that the audience can understand. So that meaning of interpretation is there. That meaning of interpreting is there. But then here we are concerned with a very different activity where two languages are involved. This task is related to either two languages or two varieties of the same language. And that is why in French, we notice there are two different terms. One is called interpretation and the other is called interpretariat, something similar to secretariat. We also see that all interpreters of this kind will have proficiency in at least two languages or two varieties of a language. And when they are performing their task, the audience usually does not know one of the languages or one of the varieties concerned. It can be the audience does not know the source, or the audience does not know the target. If we look at it carefully, this task involves a lot of skills, because it has to happen in real time. Since it has to happen in real time, the interpreters have to develop their skills in a way that is different from translation. In case of translators, there is the possibility that the person can write something and then erase it. The person can post-edit his or her work. The translator can refer to a dictionary. The translator can take gaps and pauses. Whereas in interpretation, such things are very unlikely. There is no dictionary instantly available. There is no possibility of post-editing. So that is like a constrained medium. That's like an activity full of restrictions. That means the persons performing this kind of specialized activities need to have very high level of proficiency in language. And this proficiency would not just mean the ability to use a lot of words or use the grammar correctly. It extends to rather language in everyday use. So the ability to understand the speaker's intention and speak it in a different language that is suitable to the target culture, appropriate to the context. So the ability to perform contextually is very important here. It also connects us with language processing activity. When we say language processing, what we mean is the ability to identify speech signals, identify the intention of the speaker, and then respond to that also. For the same, the interpreters constantly switch between languages. So altogether, there is switching involved language processing is there, and the language here is language in use. It is not just formal structures of the language. And those who study these things in a formal way, as if it were a discipline, engage in something called interpretation studies. That means this kind of activity has got a formal recognition called interpreting studies. There are several things involved here, and that is what motivates us. The interpreters, when they are performing their task, they also show us how human beings process language and then perform communication. When we speak to each other, we basically disturb the air molecules. We do not go into the ears of the persons and say something, but we are able to understand them. There are occasions in which you'll notice that even things that are unsaid are understood. That means human beings possess some quality to understand things which are concealed, to understand things which are unexpressed. That means the interpreters are dealing with all these things. And then we have very well known in our previous discussions that in case of translation, the writing and printing materials are involved. In case of interpretation, it's oral and oral medium which is involved. So there can be a possibility that we would be able to understand how speech and writing function in different ways, how speech and writing affect the speakers and interpreters, how it occurs in case of humans. Interpretation task also have the potential to contribute to theoretical and experimental studies, especially with respect to languages, language acquisition, and language processing. So there are several things which are unexplored, and interpretation tasks would be able to tell us how those things function, especially when human brain and human mind is performing such tasks. Those who are involved in this kind of activity are professionals, and they have two very interesting situations in which they perform their task. One is called simultaneous interpretation, and the other is called sequential interpretation. That is to say, the task is performed either at the same time, live, or it is performed sequentially. That means one person speaks and the other person speaks the same content in a different language. So when this kind of activity is happening, how a person is able to understand everything as it was spoken, and then how the person has expressed it in a different language, despite the factors of cultural specificities affecting his task or increasing his challenges. So these are things which are very interesting for research. Now, when an interpreter is performing his or her task, then there are several factors which are important for us to consider. These factors can be aptitude. That means whether an individual is good at interpretation just because of his or her personality, or it is something that can be taught. That means it totally depends on how the training has been imparted to the person. Then attitude of the individual as well as attitude of the general society towards the task that person is performing. Then the ability to draw inferences is very important in case of interpretation, and the ability to anticipate what is going to come based on the environment of the sentence and based on the context. Then proficiency in the language and communication skills. Then the ability to guess from signs and gestures. Then knowledge of the domain and the type of interpretation that one is performing. These are all factors that affect the performance of an interpreter. Very important for us to consider. Let us take them one by one. When it comes to aptitude for interpretation, the old debate of nature and nurture reoccurs. This debate of nature and nurture is related to language acquisition. We are very well aware of the debate that has happened between B.F. Skinner and Chomsky's, Noam Chomsky and their works. One group says that language is nature. That means it is a kind of biological endowment and people are born with these skills. The other group says that no, it depends on the kind of environment, the kind of skills or exposure or reinforcements given to the individual. Now, when we extend this to interpretation, we need to question whether interpreters are born with some skills and that is why they are able to perform their tasks, or interpreters are persons who are trained in some institutions and that is why they are able to develop their skills. These are debates in which one can take sides, but then very difficult to settle with either or proposition. So our safe stand can be somewhere in between. That means, like, many people are born with very high level of language skills, very nice proficiency, and they are able to express themselves fully. Similarly, some interpreters are able to perform better than others, even if they have received same kind of training in the same institution. That means they have got something called aptitude for interpreting, aptitude for interpreting activities. Then, it is a vocational. It is vocational in nature, and it has job prospects. It has financial returns, and that is why it can cause motivation in the persons, and that is why some people can perform better with that. Some like institutions which came up in 1940s and 50s, and when the act of interpreting started gaining significance across the globe, then there was a feeling that the institutions would be able to provide better interpreters and would be able to provide the required skill sets, and that is why the idea that one is not born an interpreter, rather interpreters are made, that started spreading everywhere. This is also important to know whether one has aptitude for interpretation or not is important also because now there are several university departments, there are several institutes and schools where people take admission. So at the time of admission, a person can be tested for possessing aptitude for interpretation. And in case the person lacks the aptitude, one can be advised not to get into that kind of an activity. Similarly, we need to examine the attitude towards interpretation. Let us just take into consideration the historical factors. We'll probably agree to the fact that human beings spoke several languages and they were constantly interacting with each other. That means they were interacting with the help of interpreters. That means the interactions were possible only if people knew several languages and there were people who were mediating these interactions. In case of translation, if this were an activity that involves written and printed materials, that means interpretation has existed much before translation came into being. But then today, if we look at the social and cultural attitude towards interpretation, it is very discouraging. No one wants his or her children to become an interpreter. And that is why the recognition to the profession has also been less. But we need to realize the fact that interpretation is an intellectual activity that also indicates that the individual who is performing this activity is able to oscillate between two languages very freely, and is also able to perform between two worlds represented by the languages concerned, and is also able to perform perform requirements of two different cultures. So there is a need to recognize interpretation and interpreting as language activities, as communicative acts, and as an activity that has intellectual value. It's also required that this activity gets recognition of proper profession. It is very surprising to note that when there are requirements, the interpreters receive huge amounts. If you require, say, an interpreter between English and Chinese, or English and German, or English and Arabic, you'll notice that you need to pay a lot of amount, whereas the recognition for that amount is less. So there is a need to equalize, there is a need to balance the recognition with the kind of benefits that the profession is generating. And that is why it is important that society recognizes interpretation as a sector for employment. Imagine an area or a place that has less natural resources and does not have the possibility of setting up factories or perform agricultural activities, or even set up certain other businesses. In that case, it is very profitable and very beneficial if the people of that place adopt interpretation as their skill sets, interpreting as their profession, and then perform this task. This would require very less or little investment, very less or little of infrastructure is required, and then that way the whole group, the community, can create a pool of interpreters which would bring prosperity to them, and then they can develop their community. Thereby they can develop the state, and they can also contribute to the state and national economy. It is also important to take into consideration how interpreters look at their own work and what motivations do they have for the kind of task they are performing. One very important factor, or the most essential factor that you might have noticed also, is the proficiency in the language or languages concerned, and possession of communication skills. So the ability to switch vocabulary and grammar between languages is concerned. That means the person should have the knowledge of technical or required vocabulary in both the languages. And then the interpreter should also know how to express that appropriately and grammatically correctly. Then at the larger level, the person should be able to understand not only the denotative meaning, but also connotative meanings, that is extended meanings. So the person should be able to not just understand what is said, the person should be able to understand what is meant. So the ability to understand speaker's intention is of paramount significance in case of interpreters. The person should be able to transfer what he or she has understood in the source text. He should be able to transfer that in the target language. For the same, the person should have the ability to identify the nature of the text. The person should be able to identify the context. The person should be able to understand the genre and then express in that. It would be very inappropriate if the interpreter is to interpret a kind of poetry or something that is available in the verse form, and is not able to express it in the language, in the target language, in the verse form. That means poetry gets converted into prose, or prose gets converted into poetry, or play is not properly converted. That means the person should be able to transfer these things properly in the genre that is relevant to the source language. This requires a very high level of competence. And then the pitch, tone, and intonation of the source is important. The same message conveyed in different tones can completely change the meaning. Therefore, the interpreter needs to understand the tone and texture of the message, the communication, and then express it in the same form. At times, people use ironical statements. At times, people adopt satirical comments. And then if that were not expressed properly in the target language, then it would convey a very different meaning. So when the interpreter is required to perform such an important task and such a highly skilled activity, then it is important that it cannot be just left on voluntary service or self-adopted task. Rather, it requires proper training also. That means there should be institutions that train those who are interested in the activity. So far, we are aware of only like few places where there is proper testing conducted for recruiting interpreters. Denmark is one such country which conducts language tests for interpreters. Now, the interpreters at the level of psychology, at the level of mental preparation, need to have an ability to infer meaning. They need to have the ability to draw inferences. So they need to know what is the idea that the speaker wants to express. They need to know the speaker's intentions. And this is something very important because speakers may not be very clear always. Speakers may use aesthetic expressions. Speakers may use metaphors. Speakers may use ambiguous statements. So when the speaker has the liberty to express content in an aesthetically pleasing manner, in ambiguous forms, by using metaphors and extended meanings, the interpreter needs to understand that first, understand what is not just said, but also what is meant and intended, and then express that in the target language, maintaining the genre and the kind of conversation, the style of conversation. That means the ability to inference is very important, and at times we'll notice that the speaker has not expressed fully. This is something that we all have. This ability is an ability that has come to us along with our language skills. We are able to guess what is going to come ahead. So as language speakers, we are also able to draw some meanings and draw what is going to come from the context, from the environment of the sentence. And when that is there, some kind of forward inferencing is always there. And these are like some kind of prerequisites for an interpreter. So if one is interested to become an interpreter, one needs to develop the ability to draw inferences and the ability to anticipate what is going to come next. As we all know, and we shall see in subsequent slides, interpretation activity involves two very distinct kind of challenges, in one of which the requirement is to speak simultaneously. That means it has to happen in real time. And in the other one also, it has to happen sequentially, but without gaps. At times, this is performed over phone. At times, it is performed online. So when such situation is there, when such challenges are there, the person's ability to draw inferences and the person's ability to anticipate what is going to come would be highly beneficial, and that requires some kind of psycho-cognitive training. The speech of a speaker is not always limited to the words said. Several speakers use several gestures also. They also make use of body language. They also make use of signs. And in that case, it is important for the interpreters to understand what those body language, what those gestures and signs mean in the source language and what they would mean in the target language. If both the languages share the same kind of body gestures, it is fine. Otherwise, the interpreter needs to convert gestures also, body language also. For instance, the nodding of head to say yes varies from language to language. In some languages, it is up and down. In some languages, it can be just like this. In some languages, this would mean no. So we have some kind of typological variations of body language and gestures, and the interpreter needs to know these variations very well. This whole enterprise of interpretation or interpreting developed from those population who do not use oral medium of communication. They use sign language. So sign language interpreting also emerged as very important area, and that has contributed significantly to interpreting studies. So the interpreter have two kinds of tasks. One is in which they hear things and express the same using sign languages. You might have noticed that in some kind of news broadcast where there would be a small inset where the interpreter is expressing the message using gestures and body language, using sign language. Then there are like conferences in which there would be interpreters for those who cannot hear, those who are challenged. So these are like very primitive set of skills which the interpreters need to understand. In case of those dealing with sign languages, there is a need to learn the language properly. There is a need to know the language in totality. When our usual conversation is happening and the interpreter is expressing the context of the source language, understanding the gestures used by the speaker, and or she is expressing the same in the target language, it can involve some primitive set of gestures. So they may be something like saying yes or all the best, or warning somebody, or asking questions. Now for that also there are several typological variations, but then again that constitutes a primitive set. There may not be a kind of a grammar there. There may not be combinatorial properties in the individual gestures or body movements involved. But in case of sign languages, we notice that it is not just use of some iconic gestures. Rather, in case of sign language, when that is being interpreted, or when say when verbal language is expressed in sign language, there is a proper set of gestures where you will notice a kind of combination of body part movements or body movements to express things grammatically, because the content has things which deal with present or past or future, or it has to deal with number, person, gender, a lot of things. So all that needs to be expressed. So in case of usual body movements or gestures in general conversation, it has a primitive set, whereas in case of sign language interpretation, there is a formalized set. The interpreter needs to know both these sets properly, adequately. Now let us examine some domains and popular areas in which interpretation or interpreting related activities are required, and they are the domains and areas that engage services of interpreters. The first one is business. There are several multinational companies who need to spread their business, and for the same they send their employees to different countries. When the employees go there, they need to strike deals, or they need to converse with people, and at times there is a need for a mediator. So this mediator is basically a communication mediator. So the person mediating this kind of conversations would go through the deals, go through the terms of reference, and then explain the things to both the parties as and when required. Similarly, the mass media is also an area that that is like transcending borders, and that is reaching to several countries. So you will notice a particular movie made in a particular language is converted or is expressed in several other languages. We also notice that the news channels, which are constantly monitoring the activities of several countries, may not have employees everywhere. So they may need to have interpreters. They may require interpreters who can deal with the languages in which certain news is happening, and then this media house is interested in. Similarly, conference and meetings are also situations that provide avenues of employment for interpreters. Conference interpreting has emerged as a very recognized area within interpretation enterprise, and then meetings are also situations in which the participants may not know the things spoken in the source language. So the interpreters would sit behind the participants of the meeting and then interpret it quietly, very carefully to the persons concerned. Then legal interpretation is also an area which is very promising, and it is something, an area that has a lot of opportunities. Very few people are there, and it's a very serious area. So the persons need to not just know the persons just do not need to have the proficiency of the language. Rather, they need to they need to know the subject matter very well, because it has to deal with punishment, it has to deal with conflicts, it has to deal with settlements. So it is very important. Then travel and tourism are two areas that have received interpreters or interpreting services for a long time. And these are sectors in which there is a lot of possibilities, because guides are usually performing in oral medium, and they would say that they are translators. So in various senses, interpretation has sometimes been treated as an activity within translation. Rather than that, it should be recognized distinctly. And travel and tourism are areas in which there is a possibility of adventure, there is a possibility of monetary gains, and then also intellectual thrill, because different cultures would be exposed. Similarly, countries that have embassies and consulates in different countries need to have people who can perform between languages, and that is also an avenue where interpreters can find jobs, and that's also very promising. Then now global education and people moving from one country to another country to gain knowledge. So academic institutions are also offering places and avenues for the employment of interpreters. Then science and technology, of course, is also very important for the interpreters, because every technology that is developed anywhere, if that is worthy, it would be sent to all other countries. Every country would be interested to have that technology, and if they are interested in having that technology, they need to have people who can operate that, who can deal with that technology, and if they have to deal with that, they need to have people who can explain them. So these are also areas which are very promising. You might notice that these are also areas in which translation is also predominantly present, and these are areas which are like shared by translation and interpretation. Then similarly, we have defense. Defense is also, military and defense services are also areas in which interpretation plays a very important role. Very important role, because at times there are secrets which would help a country to save a possible threat. Then similarly, there are multilingual countries or plurilingual countries which where several languages are there, and to run the administration there would be need for interpreters. Then sports is also an area which is very exciting for interpreters, because most sports today have commentators, and it is not only that the sports persons are moving with people who can help them in conversing with the culture of the place where they are playing, or the teams with which they are playing. It is also that the sports activities are broadcast, and when they're broadcast, the broadcasting happens in several languages. Often channels will gain, or they'll win rights to broadcast. So when they win rights to broadcast, they also need to have people who can express the proceedings in different languages. So that would also require skills of the translators and interpreters. Then culture is obviously an area which does not require any justification. When we come to the types of interpretation, as discussed before, there are two major types of interpretation. One is called simultaneous interpretation. The other is called sequential interpretation. There are several other types also discussed in books, but then most of the types discussed elsewhere can easily fit into these two activities, these two types. So simultaneous interpretation refers to that kind of interpreting, or that kind of interpretation which happens in real time. That means if I'm speaking something to you right now, the same thing is being spoken by somebody else in a different language. So it would qualify as simultaneous interpretation. So this is required in case of meetings, and in case of conferences. This is required when there are multinational discussions happening, and the representatives of a particular country would also carry interpreters who would quickly say the same thing, or say simultaneously say the same things to the persons present there. Then there are sequential interpreting or interpretation. That is something like the speaker speaks things, then takes a pause, and then the interpreter speaks the same thing in a different language. So in case of simultaneous interpreting, you might notice there is a need to not only infer, there is a need to anticipate also. In case of sequential, there is some time available to adjust. Some very interesting observations are available for simultaneous interpreting. The persons who are involved, the interpreters dealing with simultaneous interpreting, often are able to understand a lot of things very quickly, but they are not able to remember things. So in case of conferences, the interpreters are able to convey the information, but when it comes to question answer round, the interpreters do not remember, they are not able to handle the questions. This is a kind of an empirical observation on that. In case of sequential, there is some time, but then it happens in different ways. It is not that the entire speech is expressed and then the interpreter begins. In fact, the speaker speaks some portions of the speech, then takes a pause, and then the interpreter speaks the same in the target language. A very good example of this would be available on several news channels and YouTube. Recently, Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi visited the United States of America, and when he was interacting with the head of the state there, Joe Biden, the interaction was happening in English and Hindi. So everything that the Honorable Prime Minister spoke was interpreted in English for the convenience of Mr. Joe Biden, and everything that Mr. Joe Biden spoke was interpreted in Hindi for the convenience of the Indian delegates. There is another type that is also important for us to understand. There are occasions in which the interpreter would not know both the languages concerned. In that case, another form called relay interpretation becomes very important. So in case of relay interpretation or interpreting, the interpreters make use of a link language. As Professor Vinod Jha had discussed in his talk, a pivot language, and which serves as a link language. So that source language would be expressed in a language, and then from in a language known to the interpreter, and then the interpreter with that with the knowledge of that language would express it in the target language. So a mediating language comes in between the source and the target language here. Then we can also reclassify the activities, reinterpreting activities in a different way. This is non-formal, something which I have prepared for the convenience of the participants. It can be called on-site interpreting, and I can compare it with online interpreting. So on-site is like that which happens sequentially or simultaneously in audio video format. So what happens is, like the things are spoken and the interpreter is present there physically. The interpreter is present there physically and then expressing it. In contrast, in case of remote interpreting, what happens is the interpreter is available over phone or virtual platform and then expressing the things in audio video format or whatsoever formats required. So these are like two different activities in case of interpreting. One is called on-site, the other is called online or remote interpreting. There are some other common types also which require our attention. One is called site interpretation, and often it is compared with site translation. What it means is basically a piece of or say content is available in the written form. The interpreter would read that. The interpreter would read a content and then express it in the target language orally. So the source language was available in the written form, whereas the interpreter has expressed that in the target language orally. Now this often is classified as site translation, but then a more appropriate term would be site interpretation for the following reasons. One, the activity is happening orally. The activity is happening in the constraints similar to interpretation, and the interpreter does not have the time that is available to the translator. So that's why site interpretation would be a more suitable term, or site interpreting would be a more suitable term than site translation. There are other forms also which have been very popular and promising. One is called whispering interpretation, or whispering simply. In French, it is called, if I'm able to pronounce the word correctly, it would be called chuchotage, and it refers to that kind of interpreting in which a person sits behind another person. So the interpreter sits behind the person and very quietly whispers to the person to just convey the meaning properly. So it happens in case of meetings where the delegates would be sitting and the proceedings are in a language that is not known to the concerned delegate, and the delegate has brought a person, a language expert, who would whisper the content so that the proceedings are not disturbed and the message is also conveyed to the delegate conveniently. Then conference interpreting we have discussed already. There are other forms also which are very important, and this is a German word, very long word, Verhandlungsdolmetschen. Dolmetschen, basically the second part of the word refers to persons or a speaker, here in this case person or individual. So it is a kind of an interpretation that happens between two parties. So there can be two groups or two parties involved here, and the conversation happens in both sides would speak in their languages, and there would be interpreters who would speak that very briefly to the each side for their convenience. So it is also called like workers oder, and this kind of conversation is common in military offices. Then there is also a similar function called Bader Dolmetscher, and that has a kind of similar function where second party is mostly like the waiters or custom officials, or in a shop there are people who need to be explained what this customer wants, and then people who are required or interpreters are required to explain what the material is all about and what the price would be, or how to use all other things. Then let us see like the language pairs with that have like highest demand in the world, and you'll be surprised to notice that English Spanish, English German, English Chinese, English French, English Russian, English Arabic, and English Japanese are some languages in which there is very high demand. There are lists available for the language pairs in which the demand is very high. Now Portuguese is also one of the languages which receives a lot of demand. Such a thing is not available for Indian languages. If we look at how interpretation landscape is in India, we would be very disappointed to see that no such studies are available. And if we assume also, we would just roughly conclude that English Hindi or English Bangla or English Marathi or English Telugu would be higher, and then English with some other Indian languages, or an Indian language with another Indian language, how that is happening and what languages are receiving more attention, that is not known. It is very difficult to see. But then there are several situations that would require and demand such activities. The problem with the interpretation scenario in India is that the activity has not received the kind of attention and recognition that it deserves. So it is very important that this activity gains a lot of significance in this country, and then it develops as a very recognized and profession. There are election scenarios in which the parties and workers would move from state to state. They would deal with people there, and they would, that such communications would be mediated by interpreters, but then interpreters do not receive recognition. I also feel that some states of the country which are landlocked areas, and some states where agriculture is less, or it is not possible to set up factories, then in that case people should adopt interpretation as a profession. And it is unrestricted, because anyone can learn any language. So if they encourage their children to develop proficiency in foreign languages or even Indian languages, such children would grow up as interpreters, and then they would be able to get employment and bring prosperity to their people. Then it is also very convincing that interpreters just cannot be taken into task without training, because it requires several skills, it requires several other important qualities. So it is important that interpreters are educated and evaluated properly for their performance. Then the role of university departments are important, because these are like university departments where interpretation is taught, and then the role of manuals and handbooks for interpreters are also important. Then there are some journals and encyclopedia for interpreting. Then there are like some societies and forums also, one of which is very important for us to understand here. The International Association of Conference Interpreters, abbreviated as AIIC, is very important because it has been functioning for more than 60 years now, and it has contributed significantly. If we also look at the task and its formal recognition, we'll notice that all of it has happened in last, say, 100 years, and in only 1940s and 50s, such departments and in universities and such institutes, private or governmental, started coming. So that way, it is also important that bodies, government bodies, to license and accreditate or certify interpreters is required. That way, in case of India, such things are not available. There are private bodies which would recognize an interpreter and then say that such people are interpreters. So in that case, the recent announcement of the government of India to set up Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation may possibly solve this problem and develop interpretation as it is required. Interpretation studies is very important for us to understand, because if we look at the growth of translation studies, we notice that there is a significant growth that has happened in translation studies. A lot of work is available. A lot of researchers have invested their skills in that. But in case of interpreting studies, we noticed that first it was discussed as a medium restricted sub-branch of translation. So even if we take into consideration one of the most celebrated scholar of translation studies, James Holmes, his paper also restricts interpreting as a sub-branch of translation. Then in case of Venuti's work also, we notice that Lawrence Venuti has also translation studies reader has delegated interpreting to a small section only. So interpreting has not received prominence in translation studies, and interpreting studies or interpreting deserves to be taken into historical perspective that Alfred Herman has provided. He says that interpreting precedes translation activities, and that's why it requires more recognition and more serious attention from these scholars. Michael Cronin has also brought the cultural factors in interpreting studies, and thereby he has enriched the study of interpreting studies. The work of Franz Pochhacker is also very important for us to know, because he's one such a scholar whose work has seriously affected the growth of this discipline. His work has, positively affected the growth. Then there are several other discussion points and parameters. In case of translation, we discuss things like errors and omissions and fidelity, faithfulness, and several other things. Interestingly, these points are not so important in case of interpreting studies. In case of interpreting studies, which is very majorly influenced by linguistics and psychology, there are other factors which are responsible. And when we look at the name of the discipline called interpreting studies, we are very sure that it has a recent origin. Otherwise, it could have been something like interpretology or interpretics or something like interpretography. Things like that have not happened. This indicates, this two-word name indicates that it is interdisciplinary in nature. And Kyle says that this interdisciplinarity in interpretation studies is something like doorstep interdisciplinarity. And though it has mutualism, relationship of mutualism with several other disciplines, it is basically doorstep interdisciplinarity, and that needs to be explored further for more understanding. And with that, I bring before you some suggested readings, one of which is very important for all of us. Franz Pochhacker's work is very important because he's one person who can be given credit for developing this disciplined properly, and giving for giving a lot of research impetus to interpreters. The Interpreting Studies Leader, edited by Coach Hacker, then several other works that he has done year after year, edited volumes brought out by him, are very, very important. That's all for the time being. I'm very sure some of these things which I have discussed with you might have triggered some questions to you. So I would be interested to take your questions. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.